friends, and welcome back. We are back here playing more modded Vintagestory. Last episode, we spent a little bit more time working on our library. We now have some roofs put on, we've got some lighting, all that good stuff. Today, we are going to work on making some new windows. So, with no further ado, let's dive right in. So, in between episodes, I actually jumped into creative mode and played with some blue glass slabs to make these new windows here. And I think these look pretty good. The old windows that we had are just the typical aged windows, but I wanted something that goes a little bit better with the sleek designs that we're going for this library build. And so as a result, this is what I came up with. Now, you should never be ashamed of jumping into creative mode to see if something is going to work in your design. And I'm going to tear these out once we actually make the proper ingredients for them. But the main ingredient that we need for this is, as you can see what's pinned on the left-hand side of the screen, we are going to need blue glass, and we do not have any blue glass yet. So today we are going to get started on making all of that lovely blue glass so that we can actually make all of these windows properly and not just in cheaty mode. Okay, so to do that, we are going to need a variety of ingredients. So the first few recipes here are those ingredients that we're going to need. We need some powdered quartz, we're going to need some lime, we're going to need some borax, and we are going to need some powdered copper. Now, I think this recipe actually has an alt recipe that allows us to use instead, that is the wrong command, that allows us to use lead oxide instead. So let's see here. This is what we actually want. Frit mix blue. Sometimes when you pin recipes, you don't always get all of the various options here. But you'll see down here, I can't pin this for some reason. This uses lead oxide instead. Lead oxide is easy for us to come by because we literally just need to get our hands on some powdered galena, which we grind our galena chunks to be able to make. So that's going to be really easy for us to get our hands on. Nuggets of galena, right. Okay, so over here, I believe we do have galena. Yeah, we have a little bit of galena left. No problem there. Let's start with 400 of those. Probably massive overkill, but you know how we do around here. We always do overkill. Now, we also had determined that although the VE crusher is fine, it's actually faster to use our old school pulverizer system. So that's exactly what we are gonna do. Throw in our galena here. This will pulverize down very rapidly into crushed galena, and then we will move on from there. Now, while that is going, we do need a boatload of powdered quartz, so we will, of course, use our crusher to be able to get that. Oh, we still have a bunch of powdered shale left in here. I forgot about that. Okay, so first things first, we are going to crush. No, not grind. Crush, there we go. This is going to give us our crushed quartz. We can then turn this into powdered quartz. Once we are done, we will dump our extra off. Let's just go ahead and put this in here. We're certainly going to use this powdered shale later. We just don't need it at this moment. This is how we make our clay, as some of you may remember. So that's how we're going to do that. All right, this is going. How's the quern looking? 32 already, looking sharp. Okay. Now, all that grinding is going to take a long time. So in the meantime, I want to occupy ourselves with doing a little bit of work on upgrading our storage here. We have Purposeful Storage in this pack. So we have these glove racks, we have hat racks, we have necklace stands, we have all of these wonderful things to store all of our pieces of clothing that right now we're just kind of hanging out and being annoying and don't really have a good place to go. First things first, let's start with the basics. I think a wardrobe is a great place to start. Let's put this here, that there. We will put, oh, I thought we had more sticks than that. Did I not grab up but just 3 sticks? That seems awfully silly. Stick. There we go. That's more like it. Okay, wonderful. Let's go ahead and put some sticks right here at the top. We're going to need our nails and strips there. And then let's see here, last but not least, we're going to put some glass on either side of this, just like that. Okay, so that should give us our wardrobe. Let's take a look at the wardrobe once we put this down. And let's see how much. Oh, it looks like, oh, that is a lot of pieces of clothing that we can fit in there. Great. Well, let's grab this and we're going to go ahead and take it upstairs to our little hovel where we are currently living. We'll slowly bring all of our clothing back over here to go along with our books. Okay, so we have gotten a variety of clothing from our stores and we can just start hanging all of these up, hopefully, right here in this wardrobe. I think all of these will fit. Yeah, capes and aprons and all sorts of random things here. So there's a blacksmith apron. Now, it doesn't make it especially easy to see what's what here. It doesn't look like that goes in this container, and I have too much stuff in the way to really make sure that I am keeping the right one. Marketeer cape? Oh, apparently that can't go in there. Okay, no problem. All right, so let's go ahead and make ourselves up some pants racks real quick. We are gonna need those because we have pants to go with all of our various shirts. There we go. Let's grab this up, and I guess we could just put this like right down here. Okay, now we have a bunch of pants on hand. Let's see here. Can I do... Oh yeah, look at all these pairs of pants that I can just stack up. That's nice and neat. It still doesn't let you see quite what you're doing, but we can certainly put a bunch more pairs in here than I was really expecting. I thought we were only going to be able to put like one pair maybe. Okay, that's good. All of this is going well. We might actually need a second wardrobe just given how many shirts we have, because we do have a lot of tunics. Okay, but I think that's all of our pants. So from there, let's start closing out some of these pieces, some of that, and this thing. Okay, great. Shoe racks. Probably not the worst idea to start making a couple of shoe racks up. Let's grab these. I actually just got a new shoe rack for the house here in real life. Just because at this point it was getting kind of hard in our entryway with the various pieces of clothing that we had, the coats and everything. It just needed a better place to store all that stuff. So now we have a nice little shoe rack. All right, I am guessing that we will not be able to put nearly as many shoes here. Yeah, this looks like it's only going to let us put 4 pairs of shoes, but we have more than 4 pairs of shoes. So we are going to need at least one more shoe rack here. So yeah, let's do one more shoe rack here real quick. I guess we'll just put it here for now, and we'll start throwing these last couple of pairs of shoes in there, just like that. That gives us some options. You know, I don't usually say this, but I think we might have too many clothes. That is a surprise to me. All right, what else do we want to do here? I wonder if this butterfly display panel only works on actual butterflies or if this is for pins that are butterflies. I really don't know because we do have a bunch of butterfly pins, but I don't know if that's the same thing or not. Let's go ahead and make one, and we will find out really quick whether or not this will take pins. Let's just go ahead and put this on the wall right here, and we're gonna go get our butterfly pins. Yeah, there we go. Look at all these lovely butterfly pins that we have. No, they don't go in here. So I assume these have to go into a different sort of storage drawer. We're not going to worry about that then. We will instead move on to maybe let's see, that's for elk medallions and clothing emblems. That might be the one that we need. Let's try this one instead. I think it's going to be, let's see here. 3 there, 1 there, get rid of that. Oh, we actually are gonna need to saw down our glass to get there. So let me go get our saw real quick. We already had our saw on us. Let's go ahead and grab up our pieces of glass here. We are gonna need, I'm guessing that this says because it's gonna be 9 squares that we're gonna probably need at least 2 of these anyway. So we may as well make 2 of them while we are making. So let's grab 2 medallion racks real quick here. What do you say we put these maybe up here towards the, oh, well, that's not very useful for viewing, is it? No, we wanted something that we can actually see our medallions. Maybe like that for now. I don't love that, but you know, at least it'll solve the problem of we need to put something down real fast just to have room for it. So let's go ahead and get this filled up. There we go. And there's a bunch of our lovely butterfly pins. Okay, great. Okay, so we've done some medallions. That's good. Maybe a necklace stand next while we are at it. There we go. That looks like it holds maybe 6 each. So we need a place to put this. We'll probably put this on the wall. I don't know, like over here somewhere or something. Just like that. I think we have a bunch of necklaces. So we've made one of those. And then I guess the only thing we're really missing here is probably the hat rack. We probably need a couple of hat racks here. We do have a decent sized hat collection at this point as well. There we go, grab that up. And how big is our hat rack? Oh, that is a big hat rack. That's a lot bigger than I was expecting. But hey, it looks like it holds 8 hats. All right, let's see about these necklaces here. I think this would look much better if it was up on a shelf a little bit higher than this. Are glasses? Yeah, glasses are a hat as it turns out. And a diadem is probably a hat then. Yeah, pretty much anything can be a hat here, which is kind of a surprise to me. I don't love the way that those poke through there, but hey, beggars can't be choosers at this point. Well, we were able to make storage for most of our items, but not quite all of the items. I couldn't find a way to store our shoulder armor here, and our belts there is no solution for as well, which seems like a pretty major oversight since we have lots and lots and lots of belts. But I did get most of our bracelets put on here on this glove rack, and a pair of gloves that we do have, the lackey gloves. Our necklaces are here. I guess we can go ahead and put this here and have a nice little row. We have lots and lots of headwear, including our fancy little glasses here. And of course, all of our various hoods, the Rotten King mask, the Hummingbird mask. I'm not gonna put the cat mask that I'm wearing in here yet, but we have a crown and a diadem and some glasses and all that. 2 different things, wardrobes filled with shirts, a whole bunch of pants, a whole bunch of actual shoes that we can wear. So, and then of course, all of our various pins and diadems and whatnot, all that's hanging out here. So we have a lot of clothes now and a lot of options. I probably will go and rearrange this a little bit more in between episodes just to make it look a little bit prettier, but I'm liking generally how this is coming together. Just needs a little bit more work to give it that nice little polish and finesse. Okay, well, our grinding is almost halfway done at this point, but I thought I'd check in here on our kiln, which is finally done. Here are all of our various shingles that we had been making. There's a lot, as you can see. We probably have, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 shingles here that we have made. So hopefully this will be enough to finish all of the roofs that we have in this build, hopefully forever with any luck. We still have about 3/4 of the roof left to do on our library. So I figured this is the best way to go about it now that we have all of this done. Our automated clay processing last episode helped us to get this far, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without it. Alright, well we have assembled enough ingredients that I think we can start making the first couple of sections of this recipe. The first thing we need to do is make our frit mix for our blue glass. We are going to need a bunch of powdered copper, which I happen to have made up on hand. We are going to need some lime. I think we still have that powdered lime I made. Yeah, we've got that. Let's put this right here. We are going to need a bunch of powdered quartz. We will put 1 each here, and of course this is going to need to be doubled in the long run, but we've got more waiting. And then this is powdered borax, but it'll also take lead oxide as it turns out. So we're going to use that to make our frit mix. Now, I know this looks like it's a lot, but it's really not a lot in the long run. Oh, you're stealing my frit mix. Give me that back. I don't want this to go into storage. Frit. Okay, we're gonna have to reopen our storage. Our storage does not automatically update when you are inputting things. There we go. Give me my frit mix back. We're gonna use that. Okay. So this looks like a lot, but it's really not a lot. And the reason why it is not a lot is because we need 4 of our blue glass blatch to make a single piece of blue glass. So we are also going to be taking advantage here of the recipe that we are going to use our slabs of blue glass when we're making our windows. We're not going to necessarily use a whole block, and that seems to work pretty well. I've done that a couple of times now. All right. So we have our frit mix, so we need to move on to the next stage of this. We need to heat this so it melts, and then we're going to grind that into a powder that we're then going to use to actually make the real glass. So we are still cranking on some new lead oxide here out of our powdered galena. Again, we're just heating that up, turns into lead oxide. We are going to see if we can't just put our frit mix in here instead. That would be awfully nice. Yeah, that's going to create our baked frit for us. Now, our inventory has gotten very, very full here, so we are going to have to just throw some stuff on the ground until we have room for all of this. We can go ahead and take our basket here and let's fill this with all of our frit mix because we want to use that to crush it down for everything. I don't think we have any other use for frit mix based on the recipes we have in front of us right now. So this is going to get going. Let's get our sand back up there, and this will slowly start automating through. We will go ahead and take the last of our powdered galena, put that in the remaining slot, and that'll make a little bit more of our powdered lead oxide. So this will need to go for a while. We are going to wait for that to go. While we're waiting, we're going to do a couple of other little things here. We need to make ourselves some milky glue blue glass next, not glue blast, glue blast. That's what we're going to do next, is make this milky blue glass batch, because I want to make the luminous, and then I want to use that to be able to make some sort of a neat design that glows. We're going to use this mainly as a chiseling block. We're not going to do a lot of it. It's just going to be some detail pieces that I want to put in here, but we do need to make up some. So to get to that, we first need milky blue glass that we are mixing with our temporal powder from crushed temporal gears and some white phosphorus. So we have a little bit of phosphorus, not a lot. So since we want the milky version of this, we are going to first have to take that and use powdered tin oxide, which again, we've got plenty of, and powdered quartz, and combine that to make this milky blue glass. So the only thing I'm waiting on at this point is crushed quartz. And I just started making that up here. You can see we've got 62 pieces in this, and we've got 13, 14 pieces here. So that is going to be the next thing we're going to need immediately. But we should go ahead and get started on grinding our temporal gears and making our white phosphorus powder. Now, white phosphorus powder, that is the wrong button. White phosphorus powder we are going to make by taking our let's see here, bone ash or powdered phosphorite. And like I said, I think we have a little bit of phosphorite laying around here. Let's see here. Do we have some phosphorite? That's not how you spell that. Phosphorite. 10 pieces. That is a sad amount of phosphorite, but we are going to take it and we are going to pulverize it, and then we are going to grind it. I think that is the correct order here to get to that. So into our pulverizer you go. And there we go. There's our crushed phosphorite. And then the crushed phosphorite we can then use again. I'm pressing the U button over and over again because I've been playing a different crafting game recently. There we go. We need to powder that in our quern, and then, or in our crusher, I guess, our automated mechanical one. And then we need to heat that up again. So let's go ahead and grab up what we've got. You go into my quern, just like that. All right, our powdered phosphorite is done. Let's go ahead and cook that real quick. That does mean we need to interrupt our frit mix temporarily here, which is fine. We don't worry about that. Now, of course, we do have our stove from Electrical Progressives that we could be using to heat up these various ingredients that we need to as well as the oven next to it here. But the problem is that these are running off of the same circuit and generator that we're using for our refrigerator. And frequently using the stove is draining all of the power to the house and turning off the refrigerator. Generally speaking, you don't want your wiring to do that in a real house, but in this particular instance, it is a problem for us. So we don't want this to be constantly cooking things up. We used that in the past for cooking up flint, for instance, and it just kept turning the refrigerator off and then things start to go bad. That's not what you want. So we're not going to do that today. We're just going to use the heater from the Vintage Engineering mod instead. Now, of course, we do have some frit mix done, so there's nothing that's keeping us from using that to potentially make our next ingredient. We need to grind this into our ground frit, and again, we can use our handy dandy crusher here to do that. Set it to grind, throw it in here and in the right slot preferably, and that'll grind into our ground frit. It's going a little slowly. We have too many machines going right now, and so we're running out of power on a day like this that is just not very windy. A moderate breeze day is not enough for us to actually get things done effectively. Again, just power is our biggest problem right now. Our new base, our new library section is gonna probably solve all of that. We can run some insulated cables between the buildings, and we can set up a dozen more windmills on that thing if we want. We have plenty of space for it. But let's just go ahead and see what we can do with the frit mix that we've got. Again, just for the sake of argument, let's figure out how these go together. I think I'll put our sand there, our lime here. The crushed quartz we just made is going to go here, and then our lead oxide, of course, will go there. That will give us our blue glass batch. And as you can see, we didn't really get very much of that because the frit, all of that's going to need to be ground down, and we're getting 2 to 4, which is great. We're doubling effectively, but we're still just going to need so much of this. Now, the last thing we do with our blue glass, of course, is going to be smelt it. So we need to turn it into a blue glass solid block. For that, we're going to need our electric kiln. I don't think we can do this in our blast furnace. Let's just double check. Oh, yeah, we can totally do this in a blast furnace. That's wonderful. Okay. So this will heat up here really quick, and that should get up to temperature. That needs, let's see here, 2585. So for that, we are going to need to turn on our blowers, I believe. That will increase the temperature here. There we go. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. Okay, so this is getting up very rapidly here, and that should make our blue glass momentarily. All right, well, something's a little weird here. Generally speaking, I thought 100% would be done, but apparently not. Oh, that is way too hot to hold. We have forgotten our very, very first rule, friends, and that is make sure you have your tongs in your hand when you're dealing with anything hot. Okay, so let's go back here, grab up our white hot blue glass. So there we go. We have now made blue glass. The last thing we're going to do with this, as I mentioned, is we do want to make blue glass slabs out of it, like so. And these blue glass slabs are what we are going to be able to place and then chisel into the shapes that we want for our windows. All right, so let's make up another tiny, tiny batch of our blue glass. And this will be used this time for the glowing version, right? So let's go ahead and make the milky version. For that, we are going to need to make temporal powder. I completely forgot to make temporal powder. Let's go get some temporal gears. We are going out the wrong door. There we go. Let's go make some temporal gears into powder real quick. We have a bunch of temporal gears, thankfully. That is no longer a problem now that we spent some time in the basement hunting our monsters. Let's grab up 16 of those. And I know that there's probably some people screaming at the screen right now being like, what are you doing? You're wasting all of your temporal gears. No, I am being efficient with my temporal gears. All right, so let's see here. We need to remember, does this pulverize directly into temporal pieces and then we grind that into powder? Yes, okay. So these can go into our pulverizer just like that. You'll also note I'm using the mod that allows us to stack these. You can find that in the mods list below with all of the other mods that I'm using here. So we can do 16 in a stack at a time. And there's our lovely temporal pieces coming back out here. Just gonna wait for that to get up to 8 or way more than 8 apparently. Way more than 8 is good. Go to our quern and we will throw this in here and this will start grinding. Now, for those of you who are wondering why am I using both the old-fashioned machines here, our pulverizer and our quern, as well as our automated vintage engineering crusher, that's because we want to be able to have access to do more things at once, and I just don't have enough machines to handle all of this. These are still relatively efficient. We do have a giant gear system here for all of our wind power, so that's still working for us. At some point, I would want a bigger base with a lot more electric machines, though. So let's finish off this blue glass batch into milky blue glass real quick. For that, we're going to need tin oxide, again, made exactly the same way. We crush our tin nuggets, we grind them, then finally we cook them, you get tin oxide. Basically, you make the oxides by just cooking whatever it is. So let's grab up our powdered quartz real quick, put that here. There we go. That's going to give us our milky blue glass. And unfortunately, we did the thing again where we put it in here. We will grab up our white phosphorus powder. Now that that's done, we will come over here. We'll grab up whatever of our temporal powder we have done. And now we should be able to put all of these things together. So let's see here. We are going to need temporal powder in the first 2 slots. We are going to put our white phosphorus powder in the next slot. And then our milky blue glass, I am going to get this right today, friends, is going to go in the last slot. That makes our luminous milky blue glass batch. We will take this, and this now goes into our blast furnace here, and this will craft up our luminous milky blue glass, which will look really nice here. The only thing is we do not have the right number of pieces here. We're going to pull 1 piece out just because we know that this needs to be an even number to be able to smelt. Oh, it's 4 pieces, so we don't have that right. We'll put 12 pieces in there to get our blue glass back out. It will warn us if we are doing something wrong. Let's just remember to turn back on our blowers here, and this now should be able to get up to temperature to make that luminous milky blue glass. All right, there we go. Same bug as before. It went way over 100%, but we did finally get our luminous milky blue glass, and this stuff is really, really cool here. I did notice that the blast furnace for some reason tends to stall out and just stop. I don't know why that is, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on. Now, we have this luminous blue glass, we have our blue glass slabs. Now we can actually start with some of the more interesting decorating. All right, so let's grab up our rough cut chisel. That's that one. We are going to need a hammer. We'll take that one, swap that out real quick. And now we can head down to our basement and cut some more rock to be able to use here for decoration. Shale, I believe, is what we are going to want to use. So let's select this. And we don't need a lot of this because we don't have a lot of stone right now, or excuse me, a lot of glass right now to play with. So let's just start with, I don't know, 12 pieces, 16 pieces maybe. Okay, so how did we make these windows? Let's start from scratch so that we can see the full process here. So first things first, we are going to remove some of the other windows that already exist. So let's just take all of these aged windows out. We're going to need 5 pieces of glass, not the 4 that we have, so we will have to worry about that later. But for right now, let's just get this rotated eventually into the spot that we want. So this is going to be the bottom piece, and then we'll have side pieces going up, and then we'll also do the top piece while we're here. Again, just need to rotate that around till it's where we want it to be. If you aim precisely enough, you can get slabs to show up exactly the spot you want. Just has to be on the back half of the block. So that'll do nicely. All right, so the first thing that you're going to notice is if you're using slabs, if we actually click on that with a chisel, it becomes a full block. So this is a nice little cheat that basically gets you twice as much glass for very, very little work. So we're going to do that. We are going to use our hand plane here to knock this back to the spot that it was before. So right there, it's going to line up with the slab above. That's the correct depth. I am going to snapshot this just to make it easier when we get to those other ones here. And now what we want to do is start adding material back to this. So I am going to go ahead and go here and drop in our shale, just like that. And shale is how we are going to do the linings on this. Now, some people prefer to use lead. Shale is much, much cheaper than lead. That's why we're using the shale. We are going to use the resizable blocks here, and we are going to make this 16 by 1 by 1. And that will allow us to just add on top here a single piece, just like that. That's going to be the edges of this window. And what we also want to do is do a pair down the middle, because I think that'll look really nice, just like we had done over here. So that's got that nice pillar down the middle there. It almost looks like they could open, but they don't. All right, so now what we need to do is do one along the bottom. So let's resize this. This time we're going to do width of 16, and we're going to put this on the bottom edge just like that. Oh, but that's not where we want it, is it? No. We want it to appear on that slot there. So let's just go to the 1 by 1. It'll be just as quick to do this rather than being finicky with it. Sometimes I've noticed the resizable one doesn't do exactly what you'd expect it to do. So I think this works pretty well. Okay, so there is our window base. Now, if we were really clever, we would have copied this before we had done all of this edge on the bottom here, but we can actually do it in reverse. So let's go ahead and turn this one into a chisel block. There we go, right-clicked, put the pantograph, right-click on that, and there we go. That's now into that chiselable block. But what we can also do is snapshot this one, even if though it has a bottom, and we are going to say we want to paste shape and materials. So that's going to use that extra slate in our inventory to be able to make this. And this time I'm just going to knock these out. So again, should have done the snapshot before I did this piece. There we go. Wonderful. And then we can do this one more time here. We do this on this one. This time we snapshot this one. That goes there. Perfect. And that makes that one. Now, let's climb all the way up here, and we're going to do the top one. And we just want to have a nice round window on this one. So again, right click, pantograph it. There we go. And now we can actually do something a little bit more interesting here to actually add a little bit of an edge to this. So I want to have a nice round top. So we do that by starting to fill in with our shale again, just like this, until we get something that looks nicely like a round edge to it. We do want to come all the way to the top here, because that's going to make the top of this window look like it's intentional. And again, we just play with it. There's some wonderful curve generators that you can use on the internet, generally for things like making curves in Minecraft with much larger blocks, but those will still apply here. Doing curves with pixels is not especially difficult. It is just a little finicky. And again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. You just look at it and see what kind of looks nice to you. Like that's a little too broad. Maybe I want something a little narrower at the top. Maybe come over a little bit here, something like this. You just play with it until you get to something that kind of works. And you know what? I I think that kind of works. So I think that will probably be the pattern for our window. All right, so there's one more little thing that I want to play with, and this is why we made the luminous glass. So we're going to use the luminous milky blue glass that I accidentally just threw on the ground there. We're going to use that as our base this time. Now, if you use a luminous block, oh, it's still hot. It is still very, very, very hot. Okay, if you're using a luminous block, you have to make the luminous one the base if you want it to glow, even if you're covering up 99% of it with other chiseled blocks. So just keep that in mind, that this block is going to have to be the primary block you use. So we're going to do that. I think I'll just start with 2. I think that'll be fine here. And let's go ahead and tell these that these are indeed chiseled blocks we need to swap out for a hammer. There we go. So these are going to still glow, but they're also still chiseled blocks, right? Okay, so now I don't really want to show all of this glass, and I really don't want to show the inside of this glass. I only want this to be on the outside. So what we'll do is we will grab up our hand plane, and first things first, we are going to knock out a layer on the back here. And you know what? I might actually knock out a few layers on the back here, at least to the midpoint probably, or a little beyond, because what I want this to do is basically still look like brick on the inside, just like this. So for that, we are going to grab the andesite ashlar blocks that we literally just picked up in the first place. We will grab our chisel and we are going to put that here. So now we can add andesite to this block. So grabbing back up our chisel, we are going to do an 8x8. I think that'll be right. And then we will grab our andesite block, and just like this, we're going to frame this in. And now that looks completely like a normal stone block on the backside. We're going to come back to the front and we're going to do something very, very similar here. This time I want to add another block to it. I want to use our shale for this, because I can use both the shale in combination with the andesite to make a nice little pattern here. So I might just want to come in like one edge, one little row. Let's take our plane. Actually, we're not going to take our plane. We are going to take our resizable block again, our resizable chisel, and let's do 2 wide. Let's do 1 deep, 16 high. All right. So we'll take that out. We'll take that out. And now I think I also want to do it around the top and the bottom. So before I do anything else, we're going to snapshot this, make sure we're pasting shapes and materials. And there we go. Now we snapshotted that. And we are going to go ahead and put back in this time our andesite blocks. There we go. There we go. Lovely. That's starting to frame this out, but I'm going to want to do a little bit more than just this with it. So I think what I want to do is grab my hand plane and do remove island mode. And I'm going to knock this back just 1 more block on each side, just like that. So you can kind of see inside of it. It's going to give it some sense of depth to it. And now we are going to run back through here with our resizable block. And we are going to make sure that this is, let's see, 2 tall. We're going to make this 14 wide, and hopefully we can put this right here in the middle. And then we just want to make sure that we're still using our andesite ashlar blocks for this. So this should, oh, is it not? Oh, you know why? Because it's not actually 14. It's going to be 12 because we're knocking off 2 on each side. There we go. All right. So you can see this is actually, this is the problem with this chisel, is that it's just going to go off to the edge a little bit more. See, it wants to sit on that block, and that's not where we want that. So yeah, we might just have to do a 2x2 here just so that it'll let us play with it a little bit more. There we go. Let's fill in this, and we're going to frame it just like we did the other blocks. Great. Okay, so from here, now we start adding in our slate, or excuse me, our shale. So I'm gonna use the shale all the way around this, just like this, and just kind of fill in this whole area with just shale. All right, so at this point, we've completely covered up our glowing block on both sides. The glow will still show through because the block itself is the glowy bit. Now, those of you who have watched my Satisfactory playthrough know that one of the decorative elements that I really love to do is these light strip glyphs. This is kind of a thing that has kind of become just a design element I use in a lot of my Satisfactory builds, and I wanted to add that back into this game as well. I thought it would look really cool. So we're going to chisel out a very similar sort of glyph pattern as to what I do in the other game. So usually what I do is some sort of a thing like this that has a little bit of offset to it, like that, and just has these long strips broken up by some spaces. And I think that looks really cool as a design element. I always thought it looked kind of like, you know, a neat little like alien language sort of thing. And I think that that works pretty well even in this game. So something like this is what I'm really aiming for. And then we'll bring this down, at least one of the pieces down, until it's about 2 blocks from the bottom. And that'll kind of give us that sort of a shape. It's good to have gaps too. I don't mind having some gaps in there, but something like this I think could work really, really nicely. As sort of, again, it makes it look like it's a sign in a lost language or some sort of an iconography. And I think that that's just kind of really, really cool as a design element. All right, let's do a few more of these. We'll do a little square there, and then we'll knock down a little bit here. That was the wrong block. Bring that back up. There we go. And we're just going to keep playing with this just a little bit until we get something that we really like. All right, so that is done. Now what we need to do is grab back up our chisel, do the add remove island mode, and we can bring forward all of the rest of that glass. So now it's flush with the front. And now we have a nice little interesting looking glyph that kind of glows there. I wish it had a little more glowiness to it. Now, I'm starting to think that maybe I should have used luminous opaque glass instead, so I dropped into creative mode, added 3 blocks of the opaque white glass, just so I could see it side by side here. And I just want to show you this really quick trick to be able to copy from different materials into a new material. So the order that you put these blocks in will match the order of whatever the source material is. And if you do that, when you go to your pantograph, you can copy, change your settings to paste shape only, and it will use those shapes, those different materials, in exactly the shape order that you had used in the first place. So the base block is the first slot. In this case, if I grab my chisel, you see, so the base block, that's that slot. The second material I added was the ashlar blocks. So those are going on the edges, and then the shale is going in the middle. So that's why it's using those in those order. And so I can literally go over here to this block, for instance, and I can add in those in the same order again, just like that. And now if I copy and paste this, paste shape only, we'll get the same thing. So I'm just looking at the comparison between the two of these. I think the white actually looks a little bit better. I might even try this with a opaque blue luminous glass as well and see if that works well. But we can just play with this until we get something that we like. And it's really easy to make up all of these different types of glasses now that we have all of the base materials crafted. But again, don't be afraid to jump in creative mode to try things out and see what works or what doesn't work. Well, I really like how this is starting to come together now. And friends, we are really getting into the home stretch of finishing up this library at long last. Now we've got the little roofs and the overhangs and the lighting and the windows. I'm going to bulk make a whole bunch more of these windows. Our shingles are now done as well. In between episodes, we finished the firing of those, so I can put the rest of the roof on this monstrosity. And then all that's left is the final little bits of decoration, and the library will be done. I have one more project I think I want to do after that as well. I think we need a bridge into our library from over in the mainland. But for now, that's going to have to wait. That's the end of this episode of Enterprise Architecture. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye, friends.